Hello everybody and welcome back to the next video. This time we are going to talk about all the 21 heroes that are currently in Deadlock, and I'm gonna try to explain them to you in like Dota terms. So whenever you play Dota 2 or you're playing Dota 2, you're gonna definitely have a better understanding of these heroes after watching this video. So I definitely want you to stay tuned because some of these heroes are like very similar to a Dota hero, and some of them are completely different and they don't have anything to do with Dota in my opinion. Small disclaimer, I'm sorry for saying basically way too much in this video. I just realized it after I was done with the video. And if you want to follow me on Twitch and see me live, feel free to follow me. The link is in the description. I'm gonna stream on every weekend. Thanks for the support. Now enjoy the video. Alright, let's start with Arams. Is basically a very tanky hero. All his skills are made for him to be tanky and to melee your enemies. And a small note, whenever you start playing Deadlock, you're gonna see every hero has a range and a melee potential. It's not like one hero only melees and one hero only ranges. All heroes can do basically both. If you're just reading the spells right now, you're gonna see one thing. First of all, his Q is dealing damage to the enemy, and the damage that you are dealing to the enemies is healing yourself for 100%. And on a creep wave, you're only like doing 50% of the damage as healing. That basically means, let's just say you're standing in front of an enemy, your spell deals like 2000 damage, you're gonna regen 2000 damage at the same time. The W, like a skewer from McGinnis. I'm gonna show you the combo right now, like you just Q, so you deal damage as you can see, and then you're gonna skew him back into the wall, and then you can punch him. The biggest combo of this hero. After that, you're gonna see there's a passive, and the passive is pretty simple to understand. Whenever you take damage, you will get the damage back. 60% of it at least, at level 1. At the max level, you see it's plus 9% as well. That basically means you're returning like 25% damage back to your health. That means if you're taking, like, let's say 100 damage, over 18 seconds you're gonna get 16 damage back, which can be very nice and will add up your tankiness overall. The ulti is basically like a small RP, I would say. So if I think about this hero, I'm thinking about McGinnis because you charge in, you want to tank everything, and you have like a very cool spell that can be either clutch to escape or to like hit like a 5-man stun or something. Because as you can see here, you jump up, you have a radius to search, and then you can left click and you're gonna come down. And the entire area around this is gonna stun people. So the perfect combo you can basically do is you ulti in, you use your Q, you charge in, you punch the enemy. This is like the classic combo you can do if you hit your ulti, so this is important to remember. Alright, the next hero is Bbob. Basically like a budget punch, I would say. You can hook people. Your stats are also like kind of similar to like Arams, besides the fact that you have like a little bit less movement speed and more health. But other than that, I would say this hero is like kind of the same concept, because all the heroes are kind of the same concept when it comes down to like stats. The only difference on this guy, I would say, is basically his weapon. And I'm gonna show you that in a second. His weapon is not like a shooting weapon, his weapon is basically a laser, which is like almost instantly whenever you pre-click something or pre-hit something. This is important to note. Your first spell is like a tusk punch. Your second spell is like tech is mine. You are placing on a creep, on an enemy, or even on yourself. Your third spell is a hook, and your ulti is basically like a sunray that deals insane amount of damage. It slows movement speed, plus it heals yourself for 100% of the damage you are dealing at max level, as you can see. So I'm just gonna show you the spells now. The first thing is the hook. The second spell is the mine, as I said, you're gonna see it. Then you can punch them away, and then you can basically ulti. And one cool trick on this hero as well is a lot of people are buying the Mystic Jump right now. If you don't know what it is, I'm gonna show it to you. It's like Majestic Jump, a leap, whatever you wanna call it. I'm gonna call it jump. So this item lets you jump up into the air. And what people are doing is basically they're jumping up and they're ulting, because you're staying in the air. You're not moving, you're not like over or doing anything. You can even move yourself, and you can decide if you want to drop, as you can see here. Alright, the next hero is basically my favorite hero. If you like playing Enigma, I can guarantee you will like playing this hero as well. The biggest downside on this hero is basically his landing phase is not the best. You have a lot of sustain, yes, but the problem is your weapon is very bad when compared to other weapons, and your sprint movement speed and overall your movement speed is like kind of bad as well. So quickly explained, the weapon, as you can see, is firing very slow. Just compare this to Bbob, the hero before. He has a laser that is like instant. If you compare this, it's like obvious that this one is way worse. Now we are going to talk about the spells a little bit. The first spell is basically like a pulse thing, or like a small fissure that's like going to the enemy. As you can see here, you lift them up into the air. At some point you're gonna slow them, you're gonna get more damage, and you deal more damage. Can be like very effective. With some certain items, the spell can have an insane amount of range. Your W is basically an escape. I'm gonna show you right there. You're basically jumping from one place to the other place. escaping wise or dodging spells wise, you can be insane. There's like insane play potential. If I compare this to any hero right now, I would say it's basically a blink where you can like avoid the spell or some shit. The first spell doesn't really have like anything comparable to like Dota 2, but the first spell is basically like Witch Doctor heal. If you compare it to Dota, like this is like a heal, you're just casting, you're moving around, and you see the circle where it heals. At level 4, you have full movement ability, plus it's healing 4% of the max HP of your teammates, which is insane, and it's very, very strong at some point. And of course the ulti, it's kind of obvious, it's a black hole, which deals a lot of damage as the basic, but on max level you're also dealing percentage damage of your enemy's health. Alright, the next hero is Great Talon. One cool thing about Great Talon is you have a lot of damage potential. The only downside on this hero, in my opinion, is if you're getting catched, you're dead. Definitely. No chance of surviving, so you need to like either build up for being like very careful or having a lot of escape, or you need to be like in a very, very defensive position so your teammates are standing in front of you and you can have like a fun time. Overall, the hero skill concept, I would say, is like nothing comparable to Dota 2. You can say it's Wind Ranger because of the arrows, sure, but other than that, there's like nothing the same, because you have like a jump up where you deal a lot of damage. As you can see, you're also having like a split shot like the Wind Ranger. You can like put down a trap. The cool thing about the trap is if it hits, you're gonna see one thing. You see, I will see him behind the wall here. That basically means it's like an kind of aimbot. If somebody is moving into the trap, you're gonna see them through walls as well. The ult basically like a bird that you can fly around. You can speed him up even, and whenever you wanna like detonate it or like let him explode, you're either flying into somebody or a building, or you literally just click the button where it says detonate, like this. Up to you. And the concept behind it deals damage and it stuns the enemies for a short amount of time. Alright, if you are a carry player, I can definitely guarantee you will love Haze, just because Haze is late game queen or king, whatever you want to call it in this game. Whenever you have a lot of farm on this hero, you're gonna like completely womp everybody at some point. If they are like not smart enough to buy like an item that basically makes your hero useless. Overall, this hero has like a lot of potential, especially because your damage potential is insane. So the weapon is like kind of chill, it's like very quickly as well, which can be very good. Skill wise, I would say the first spell is basically a PA dagger that sleeps your enemy for like 3 seconds. Your W is basically like you're going into Shadow Walk from Bounty Hunter, but the downside is you see the circle around me. Whenever somebody is like going into the circle, they will see you as well. That basically means it's like it has a very big radius where you are in visation. The third spell is a passive, and the passive makes like your damage increasing the more you hit the enemies. That means the more I'm hitting this guy, the more damage I'm dealing over time. It stacks up, as you can see above him. He has 30 stacks right now. That basically means you're dealing the max amount of damage. And the ulti, there's nothing to compare Dota to, in my opinion. Like this entire area, you're dealing damage and you're just shooting around, and it's a lot of damage. And it also scales with the items, which makes her very, very broken in the late game, especially with farm, of course. Alright, next on the list is very easy. This is basically Bad Rider. Like, Infernos is legitimately Bad Rider, and you're gonna see why. First of all, his weapon is insanely good. As you can see, I'm shooting so fast on level 1, which is crazy. And the skills are basically like this, sticky napalm, not as less cooldown as in Dota, but like overall, your passive burns the enemy whenever you're filling up this thing. I think it's like 8 hits or something, or 5 hits, I can't remember. Whenever you fill this up, you Q him, this amplifies your damage too, plus your W is basically Flame Break, not Flame Break, what is it called? Firefly, and you're just like burning down everybody in this area. The only thing that is like different to Dota is basically the ulti. The ulti is like an area around you that explodes and stuns enemies and deals some damage at some point. But overall, this concept is like very, very Bad Rider heavy. You're basically like hitting them and you're burning them at some point, like in Dota. Then you stick it up and then, or like catalyst, whatever you want to call it. You amplify your damage whenever you want to run at somebody or you want to run away. You're using your W to run away, and the ult is like very good to escape kind of, so the enemies are scared running close to you, or you're running into them and you're stunning all of them and dealing a lot of damage. Up to the next one, it's Ivy. Ivy, in my opinion, has like no really comparable hero to Dota 2. This is literally like a hero that is like has its own concept, in my opinion, because I don't see any spells being like similar to anything in Dota, besides like maybe this. This is like a grenade that basically brings up these roots that slows enemies and deals damage. The W is basically like an IO terror that heals them, and you can combo this as well with your ulti and take your teammate and fly away with them. Your stone form is basically like you're turning into stone, you are invulnerable, you can't get touched, but you're healing as well at the same time. And the combo with the ulti is basically like you're tethering this guy and you can choose him and you fly around with him. So you're healing him, as you can see, you can drop your ally with this, then you can like go up and down, which can be very cool, and you can even use a bomb while flying. For example, you're doing like this, if you don't have a teammate on you, you can like drop the bomb by it basically, as you can see here, which deals damage as well. The weapon overall is like very good, as you can see. It's like basically a minigun, which can be very cool and very effective in the game for last hitting as well. Alright, next on the list is Kelvin. Kelvin is also like no real hero in my opinion. It has like a concept from like Dota. Maybe they're gonna implement these kind of heroes at some point, but like for now I don't see anything that's like comparable to this. But I'm gonna explain you real quick what they do. So his first spell is basically a grenade that deals damage and heals yourself and your teammates at some point. Your W is basically your escape. You can like fly around and like basically have like ice shards following you, and you can walk on them and like go up to the air or go down, and your teammates can walk on them very quickly, and your enemies are walking on them too, but they are not as quickly as your teammates, which is important. The third spell is basically like a laser, a laser that deals damage and slows enemies and like burns their movement speed and fire rate slow basically. And your ulti is like a big ball that spawns around you, as you can see here, where you can trap your enemies, you're healing in it, and you can even cancel it by clicking the same button again. But this spell with the ulti can be like very effective for like securing certain areas, or like securing the rune or whatever you want to like secure or like protect. Even a teammate, you can protect him, you're gonna heal him, and then we can start the fight from another perspective or point again. Alright, Lady Geist has like very big similarities to Terrorblade actually. Overall, skill set on this hero is kind of good as well. As you can see on the right side, like all the heroes have like kind of same stats. A little bit change, but for now, most of them are like very similar. They are tweaked a little bit, but overall, most of the heroes are like kind of similar. So this hero, or this lady, whatever you want to call it, is basically losing HP if you use your spells. And the concept behind is basically, you have a grenade, you throw it, as you can see I'm losing HP down there. You have a dagger, or like, let's call it a dagger, you're just throwing it on your enemy, and you can see a stack up there. The more stacks you have on them, the more damage you deal. This is like the big thing, that you can like stack and like put on the enemies, deal more damage, and do this over and over again. And as you can see, my HP is going down. So the W is basically like an IO tether, but with the difference, you are sucking the HP out of them. And whenever you have like a situation where you need like a lot of HP, you can basically swap the HP with your enemies, and it's basically Thunder, as you can see here. I basically took his HP, I'm full HP again, he lost some HP as you saw, and that's basically it. So it's like a budget Terrorblade in my opinion. Alright, next one on the list is Lash. I don't think Lash has any kind of concept to Dota 2 besides like maybe flying around like a Monkey King, but other than that, you will see this hero is like definitely something else. For example, your Q is basically like damage. You stomp enemies if you're coming from the air. I'm gonna show you that really quick. So if you're coming from the air, you're doing this, you will stun them. And the most important thing is you can like fly up like this and stun them as well. For example, like this is like a very cool concept in my opinion. Like your Q stuns them if you're damaging them from like above, in my opinion. Like I didn't test it yet even myself, but I just know it because I played against it a lot. So with your W, you can grapple your teammate, your enemy, doesn't really matter, and you can jump up. And as you can see, you can stay in the air for like a long time, which is a very cool. And I love this overall. So then you can like go down and stun the enemy, which is also cool. Then you can like, let's say, slap them with like a, I don't know what you want to call it. You steal some HP, which is like very nice. You're applying some movement slow at some point, and yeah, overall you're reducing fire rate slow, you're dealing damage, and you're healing a little bit, which can be very nice. But other than that, this is like kind of whatever. But the big thing is basically the ulti. Whenever you are in the air, you can basically like ulti. You're gonna see, you see an enemy here, you grab him, you throw him down, and you can follow him with the Q. So like you double stun him basically, and this works on like several enemies. So if an enemy is, for example, in this area here, or like 5 heroes, you can literally drop them all down like this, which can be very cool and very effective in the game. But the problem is, it's very hard to hit, and I think this hero has like a high skill cap, so I'm definitely not recommending you this one if you want to start with the game. So the next one on the list is McGinnis. McGinnis is basically like a military lady that can like build a wall, has some rockets, has like a small drone that heals you, and she can basically build up some mini towers that attack enemies, as you can see here. But first of all, let's show you the gun a little bit. This one is like stacking up, as you can see here. It's like very slow at the start, but the more you shoot, the faster it gets. So you can build up these small towers that also hitting enemies, as you can see. You can drop down your W, which heals in this area right there. The area gets increased the more spirit you have. Spirit is like a different type of topic we're not going to talk about now, but like later on in a different video. You can build on a wall like this, which can be very effective to like block your enemies or even block your teammates or save them, whatever. And the ult is like basically like a rocket launcher. So overall, I would say this is like a mix from Mancer and Earthshaker, because of the wall and the wards kind of. But like overall, this doesn't really have a concept from Dota 2 compared to like the Enigma guy, like Dynamo, or the Bedrotter guy, Inferno. They're like very, very similar to Dota heroes, but like this hero is like just something else. Alright, the next one is Mu and Krill. Overall, this hero also has like no concept compared to Dota 2, but like overall, this hero is like very tanky and you have a lot of sustain and you can tank up and be like the fat guy that tanks every single spell and nobody cares about you anymore because you're just too tanky. So his Q is basically like an AoE damage type of thing that heals you as well, which can be very effective. If you have a lot of enemies around you and you don't have any HP, you will heal. Your W is basically like you're burying down, and if you want to with space, you can jump up, stun the enemies and deal some damage, as you saw. Your third spell is basically like a disarm in a certain area. As you see, he's disarmed, and your ulti is basically, shortly explained, patch ulti. As you can see here, you're dealing damage, you're stunning them for a very long time, and that's basically it. Alright, next one on the list is Paradox. Paradox is like very, very similar in my opinion to Vengeful Spirit because of one big thing. He has a swap. I'm gonna show you really quick. So, your first spell is basically a grenade that slows the enemies, deals damage. Your W is basically a wall that where the enemies can shoot through, but the bullets getting like slowed. For example, you're putting down the wall, an enemy is shooting you, the bullets will stuck into the wall for 1 second, and then they're flying to you. So, for example, you're putting down the wall, somebody's shooting at you like this, the bullet will stuck, you go like this, and the bullet will fly on the left side of you. That's basically it. Your third spell is like a small stun that helps you setting up enemies, they're getting slowed, and they're kind of getting stuck in time, kind of basically like a faceless void bashers, whatever you want to call it, which amplifies your damage as well, and you can combo this like this, which you shoot at them, you swap them, and you use your W, and you deal damage. It's very important to note as well, your wall, whenever an enemy is crossing this, you're dealing like 10% of their health as damage, which can be very, very big if you're swapping them through the walls every time, as you can see. Alright, next one on the list is Pocket. Pocket is the most Dota hero in the world. So, overall, he has a shotgun, so his weapon is like kind of whatever. It's like, every weapon in this game is like kind of okay. Some of them are better for some scenarios, but overall I would say the weapon game is like kind of balanced. So that's why I'm not talking about all the heroes, because a lot of them are like very similar, but other than that, they're like kind of whatever. So the spells are like basically Q is like basically you're throwing something on the enemies that amplifies your damage as well the more you hit them, which can be very cool. As you can see, 6% per stack. That means you can amplify your damage quite a lot at some point. Your W is basically Pack Orb. You're just sending this guy out, and whenever you want to teleport, you double click, like you click the same button again, and you can teleport over there. And your third spell is basically Phase Shift, with the difference that it deals damage when it explodes. So the combo is basically like, you're buying some items for mobility, you're going into the enemy, you're shooting them, then you're using your W, like you pack, then you're doing this, and then you teleport over. So it's basically like, you're very elusive, as you can see, which can be very cool. And the ulti is basically the old Venom ulti, which like spreads his ulti all around you, which deals damage over time. But it's important to note this ulti, or like this damage, will not kill the enemy. They will be alive at 1 HP. You need to make the final shot and kill them. Important to note. Alright, next one on the list is 7. 7 has like also no real concept in my opinion compared to Dota. But like 7 is the biggest noob hero in this game because he's like very simple and easy to play. And he can be like very, very strong as well. So overall, his weapon is like strong too. It's like, I think it's 3 shots at the same time. I mean, not same time, but like 3 shots in a row. So it makes it like very easy to like CS and all that shit, which can be very effective. His Q is like a small ball that deals damage. And whenever the damage is not hitting the enemy anymore, it jumps back as well. So that basically means it goes through the enemy. If the enemy is not getting touched anymore, it jumps even further. Maybe it's gonna hit them again if they jump the wrong direction. But if they jump from this perspective to the left side or to the right side, your ball will go behind them and will not anymore. So your W is basically like a castable stun that comes with a delay. But when it stuns them for like 1.1 second, which is not a lot. But at level 4, it adds up and it has double the stun duration. And your E is basically like a Zeus chain light. Like your bullets basically spreading out. So for example, I'm hitting this guy. If he has like creeps around him, the creeps are getting hit at the same time as well. And the buff is for like 6 seconds. As you can see here. Actually, sorry, correct that, 10 seconds. So, and the ulti is like kind of a thunderstorm that you're just casting. And as you can see the area right there, in this entire area, I'm dealing damage. The only downside is basically, as you can see, he took damage quite a lot. But if he is behind a wall and I do not see him, as you can see, I will not deal any damage to this guy. So this is like basically the biggest noob here because a lot of people don't know how to play against him. But if you're just standing behind a wall, he's not dealing any damage with his ulti. So please just hide behind a wall and this hero is completely useless. Alright, the next hero on this list is Shiv. Shiv is like also not very similar to Dota heroes. The only thing, like some of his spells are like very similar to Dota spells, but other than that, nothing is like comparable. So his spells are basically, his first spell is like a knife you're throwing at the enemy. It deals like bleeding damage, as you can see, over time. That's basically it. It has a lot of poke potential. Your W is like a dash forward through the enemies that deals damage too. And your third spell is a little bit special. The more damage you take, you will see. It punches me, you see I have like an orange health bar, as you can see here. And the orange health bar will be healed if you click this. So you get the passive or like active, whatever you want to call it, is basically like it reduces the damage of your enemies and gives it as your orange kind of HP. So that means the more damage you take, the more orange is gonna be your HP bar. And if you click it, you're gonna get a potion back to it. But if you have too much orange and you don't have your third spell ready, you might even die, because the orange damage is gonna kill you at some point. And the ulti is basically like an axe culling blade. You can finish up enemies that have like 20% of their HP instantly. And it's not like in Dota, you need to be very close to them. As you can see here, you're literally jumping them from far away, which is crazy to me, because this jump is like insane. If you just think about it, the range is like this here. That's cooldown, sorry. Like the range is like basically here. Just think about it. Imagine an axe can ulti you from this distance, which can be very insane. Alright, the next one on the list is Vindicta. Vindicta is basically sniper, just with a different kind of skill set. So Vindicta has basically a first spell is like a root. As you can see, he's like rooted to this kind of spot here, and it's AoE, so it works on 5 enemies at the same time. Your W is basically like you're flying up and you're dealing more damage, and you're also dealing like magic damage or spirit damage, whatever you want to call it. Your third spell is like a bird that you're throwing at enemies that deals like a percentage bleeding damage kind of, and normal damage as well. And your ulti is kind of obvious, it's a sniper shot. It's important to note though, whenever an enemy is like not glowing, like not like this, and instead he's glowing, it basically means the enemy is one shot. And when is he on one shot? Below 50% HP, you can one shot him. And you're dealing the full amount of damage whenever the circle is green. As you can see here, it's loading up a little bit. Now you can one shot them at half HP. Before, doesn't work. Alright, next on the list, Viscus is basically like a kind of Oni hero, I would say. Like he has some spells that are like kind of similar to Dota 2, but other than that, I don't see so much. Like his Q is basically like goo that you're throwing at the enemies that deals like damage. That's basically it, and slows the enemies as well, but that's it. Your W is basically like you're putting yourself into goo, as you can see. You are like invulnerable in there, and you're healing yourself. And your third spell is like a punch, where you can push the enemies around, even like in sideways, which can be very cool, as you can see here. And the cool part is you can even push yourself, as you can see, which can be very effective too. And the ulti is like the classic, it's Pangoli ulti. Like it's basically like you are a ball. The only difference is like you can jump around like this without spells. You can just like jump like this, you can go faster, and you can even cancel the roll while rolling. Same as in Pangolier. The only difference is like you cannot just jump as you whenever you want to. You need your W in order to like your shield crash. That's the only difference compared to like the. So the next one on the list is Warden. Warden also has like no real identity in my opinion to Dota 2. He's like basically a military guy that has a lot of damage and can be very scary, but useless at the same time. So his spells are basically like this is a grenade that deals damage and slows them. This spell gives you movement speed and Spirit Shield, which makes you more tanky. The third spell is basically like a root. As you can see, if the enemy is getting to this circle right there, he is out. But if he's not getting around the circle, he's gonna be like rooted, as you saw, or as you did not saw. I'm gonna show you again. As you can see here, now he's rooted for like 2 seconds. And his ulti is basically like a charge up. You're charging up for 2 seconds. And then, as you can see here, you're dealing a lot of damage and you have like 100% lifesteal. So whenever you have your ulti on and you're hitting somebody, Jesus Christ, you're dealing a shit ton of damage. But the problem is, whenever your ulti is like kind of over, you are completely useless and you do not know what to do. So that's basically it. Alright, next one on the list is Raze. Raze is also like not really similar to Dota 2. She's like a lady that has like a big gun and she can deal a lot of damage. So the spells are basically like, the first spell, as you can see, is blurred because you need to deal damage to an enemy. And then you see your first spell is like loading up kind of. And it's basically like a card you throw at them and wherever you show, the card will fly. As you saw, I looked here, I looked at the enemy, and the card is like basically flying around that and hitting the enemy. So the W, or like the second spell, is basically a teleport, as you can see here. You're just teleporting up there. It has an animation, so you can get easily stunned in that. So this is important to note. The third spell is basically like a fire rate buff, It's just like a passive basically that you can click, and you have like more attack speed, that's it. And the ulti is like a lift up that like silences and stuns the enemies, so they will be kind of useless and you have like more time to actually hit them, which can be very effective too. So that's basically it, but Wraith can be very, very strong at split pushing at some point. Alright, last but not least, Yamato. In my opinion, Yamato has like a very, very weird skill concept because she has some things from Dota, but like it's weird. I'm gonna show you. Like the first thing is like a dash that loads up and you can release it earlier and it's just like dashing forward. The W is basically like a hook where you jump at the enemies and you're dealing damage and you slow them at some point. The E is basically like you blading around yourself like this and you healing and dealing damage to the enemies. And most notable is like the ulti. It's like you charging up 2 seconds and then you are like basically like you can't die. You can take damage, yes, but you also have like bullet resist and spirit resist, but you cannot die anymore. And it's important to note too, your spells are way faster. As you can see here, I'm invulnerable. Now I'm unkillable basically for this time here, as you can see, but my spells are also like very, very fast. So this is like the big up and downside on this ulti. You need to load it up basically, but this is like the downside, and the upside is basically your spells are very like fast and strong and you're dealing a shit ton of damage. But yeah, the ulti is like very short, so at some point you can be kind of useless if you don't have the right items on this hero. And I think this hero has like a very high skill cap to play her like very, very good, but she can be very effective as well. So yeah, I really thank you for watching, and I really hope like these kind of tips or like small hero showcases will give you like a small opportunity to like understand the heroes a little bit better and maybe even compare them to your Dota heroes and get a better understanding and maybe a better feeling on them. So if you want to try Deadlock, feel free to try it. I wish you good luck on that, and we're gonna see us in the future with more guides and more videos about Deadlock. Thanks for watching. Peace.